Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, Karen closes down my street so her kids and dogs can play in the road. I live on the end of a cul-de-sac in a newer built neighborhood. I've been here for over 5 years now. I'm the only person in the cul-de-sac that doesn't have kids, as I'm a single female. The mamas usually close off the cul-de-sac every morning, sometimes during the day too when it's nice out, and they allow their kids and dogs to play all over the street and my yard, driveway, and porch. There are 8 kids in total, ranging from ages 1 to 6. The problem is that this is usually when I'm coming home from work after a long day. The mamas expect me to park on the street and walk to my home and then come back later when they're done and get my car in the garage. And I'm not doing this. There's typically toys and various types of tricycles laying all over the road. The parents and kids are also in the road and nobody will move from my car as I maneuver around all the obstacles. I've installed security cameras and planted barriers around my property to discourage the trespassers. However, they just throw my mulch, ride bikes through my flower beds. Their dogs have urinated so frequently on my plants that they are now deceased, and they defecate in my yard and leave it. The kids have messed up my cars and broken many things, electrical items. Their 1-year-old is frequently found on my porch, and I mean multiple times a day. It's only my yard this happens to. However, yesterday was the last straw. I was coming home and the road was closed as usual for their makeshift mommy and me time. I drove around the obstacles and pulled up in my driveway. 2 kids, maybe about 5 or 6, ran up in my car between me and the garage door, and they held out their hands so I couldn't pull up. They were blocking my path. Yes, they were in my driveway about a foot from my garage door. The mamas see it happen and do nothing. Next thing I know, a mama is running over, screaming at me that I'm driving too fast up my driveway. She was referencing how the kids play in the yard in the driveway, and I'm putting them in danger and banging her fists on my door. I then woke up this morning to find she had made a large sign that said, "No speeding, kids at play," and put it in my yard facing my front door. I did make a call to the police, but they said there's really nothing they can do for neighbor disputes, even though they're trespassing and closing roads. Is this right? How else can I handle this? What would you do? Am I truly in the wrong here? I've spoken to them before, and they've just suggested that I move if I can't be in the village that helps raise the kids. Should I report this? The neighbors all agree that I'm the problem here, and they're ganging up on me, as they feel I should park and wait and allow the kids to play on my property. I even have security footage of a parent instructing their kid to steal from my property to teach me a lesson because I planted barriers. Call the non-emergency number and ask about road closure rules. This is a major safety issue because emergency vehicles will be impeded by the road closure and all of their stuff on the roads. Also, report all property damage and trespassing. They already can't stand you, so no need to worry about rocking the boat. Tip it over and drench them. Drive up with the most annoying gangsta rap music you can blaring from your car. Give the moms a concert until they move their crap. Teach their kids some new vocabulary words. This is why I live in the country. Neighborhoods just suck, and I don't know why people put up with living there. Houses extremely close to each other, high crime rates, no views of nature, loud, obnoxious neighbors playing dumb music, extreme bass rattling your walls when you're trying to sleep, kids screaming outside all hours of the day, cars with loud engines and motorcycles, dogs barking nonstop, parties all hours of the night. I'd pick these snakes and coyotes over that mess any day. Most people want to stay in the city so they're closer to their job, but a longer work commute has always seemed worth it to me to save my sanity. Nothing is better than sitting on the back porch in the morning drinking my coffee without another soul in sight as far as the eye can see. This is how we were meant to live, not in boxes stacked next to each other or on top of one another. How I complied my way out of a parking ticket. A few years ago, I parked in a paid parking lot, but forgot to buy a parking ticket. When I came back a few minutes later, I discovered an $80 ticket on my dash. While I was frustrated about my own forgetfulness, the ticket itself was fair. However, I came to discover that the amount they had charged me was not. Before leaving the lot, I noticed a small detail on the terms and conditions sign at the entrance of the lot. It said that a failure to pay for a parking ticket would result in a $70 ticket, not the $80 ticket that I was charged. While I'm no lawyer, I do know that those signs essentially create an implicit contract upon entering the lot. Therefore, the company was technically violating their own contract by charging me extra. I appealed the ticket, stating that I would be happy to pay the agreed upon $70, but it was rejected. I then reached out directly to customer service, explaining the same situation. They rejected my request to pay the valid $70 because their ticket amounts are non-negotiable. Cue the malicious compliance. I realized that by their own words, they are the ones attempting to negotiate the price by charging me an extra $10. So I called up the supervisor of their claims department. She was already aware of this dispute and immediately attempted to shut me down, saying, "The signage is not up for discussion." I reminded her that their company's policy states that ticket amounts are non-negotiable and that given what the terms on the sign stated, they were trying to negotiate a higher price. Once again, she shut me down, stating the signage is not up to discussion. The rest of the conversation went something like this. Me: "So, where can I escalate this from here?" Her: "There is no more escalation. Next stage is court." Me: "Seems silly to go to court over $10, don't you think?" Her: "Yeah, it does." Me: "Okay, well, I'll begin the small claims court process over the non-negotiable price issue then." Her: "Okay." I was having fun at this point, and I was fully ready to start taking legal steps over this $10 on a matter of principle, and knowing that if I did, the company would immediately cave. Before doing that, however, I sent one final email to the vice president of the company. I explained the whole dispute, explained the signage, their non-negotiable policy, and how the appeal supervisor told me my next step was to take it to court. I offered them the opportunity to resolve this civilly before going on to that stage. Not even 3 hours later, I got an email back stating that my ticket had been fully cleared as a courtesy. I called their bluff, maliciously complying to the contract and the take-it-to-court attitude, and it worked. As an added bit of pettiness, I replied thanking them and CC'd the appeals supervisor. I then directly addressed her, telling her that this is how easy it could have been resolved if she would have just actually addressed the signage issue. The moral of the story: push back against parking lot companies. They use shady practices and try to scare people into paying unjustly. Often a simple but credible legal threat will make any issue disappear. And as some have pointed out, yes, these parking tickets aren't usually enforceable. That being said, if I ever wanted to use this lot again, which is the only one in the area, then I would have to get it resolved, lest I get towed. Also, I can't recall exactly how the appeals woman brought up court, but I don't think she implied that I should sue. I think it was more of a veiled, "we will sue you" statement, which was of course a bluff. Regardless, as many pointed out, her mentioning court at all was a bad idea on their part. My boyfriend asked his ex-girlfriend to make a workout plan for me that would make me look like her. I, 20 female, and my boyfriend Alex, 22 male, met 3 years ago, but we started dating 10 months ago. When I first met Alex 3 years ago, we were both in separate relationships. At the time, he was dating Ellie, 22, female. Alex and I had a mutual friend back then and would often meet in a group setting with our partners and a few more couples. We both got out of our own relationships at the same time a year ago and then hit it off. Ellie works out a lot, and Alex and her would often go to the gym together back when they dated. She has a slim, thick body type with a flat stomach, bigger thighs, and slim arms. She's very pretty, and it's hard not to be jealous. Her figure almost looks like a real-life Mrs. Incredible. I, on the other hand, am slim and thin. I'm just tall, skinny, and no curves. I don't mind the way I look. Alex never seemed to dislike the way I looked either. He had asked me one time before if I wanted to get a gym membership and work out with him, but I said no, and he never asked again. Yesterday, Ellie reached out to me through Instagram and asked if I had talked to Alex about wanting to start working out. I said no because I hadn't. I was a bit confused and asked why she was asking me. She then proceeded to send me multiple screenshots of conversations with Alex. He had asked her to put together a workout plan and a meal plan that would make my body look like hers. He told Ellie that it was my idea and that I had asked him to ask her. I never did. He was also very strict with making sure that she sent the plan to him and not me. Ellie thought this was a little suspicious and decided to ask me before she made the plan. I haven't told him that I know about it, and I genuinely don't know where to go from here. I feel so insecure now. Ellie has been an absolute saint through this and has really tried to make me feel pretty, although it doesn't work. Alex is apparently not happy with the way I look. Not only does he want me to change, but he wants me to look like his ex. I love this guy so much, and he's been absolutely perfect until now. Am I overreacting? Edit. He's my ex-boyfriend now. That's so humiliating. I'd never forgive him. Ellie is a girl's girl and did you a favor. Take it and dump the jerk. Am I the jerk for not marrying someone just because she's pregnant? I, 27 male, unfortunately got my girlfriend, who's 25, pregnant 3 months into dating. She was on birth control, but it failed. In hindsight, I should have used other precautions as well, but I figured that birth control was supposed to be 99.9% effective. I never thought I'd be that 0.1%. She said if she had an accidental pregnancy, she wouldn't have it. After getting pregnant, she changed her mind and wanted to keep it. I won't lie that I'm not happy about this decision, but I realized it's her choice and I don't get a say. It is what it is. She's now almost 7 months pregnant and very much showing. Her parents are very traditional and her dad is a relatively well-known person in his community. He has a somewhat high-profile job as well, even has a Wikipedia page. To say her parents are trying to get us to get married before the kid is born is putting it lightly. It started off just expecting. So, when are you getting married? And now it's more, you better get married before this kid is born because my grandkid won't be born without married parents. Personally, I'm not interested in marriage. My parents are both married and divorced twice. Most marriages in my extended family have gone the same, and I just don't really care for the institution. Not knocking it for people who choose it, but it's not for me. Even if it were, I wouldn't feel ready to marry my girlfriend anyway, because we still haven't even been together for a full year. I'd want to date her for at least 2 years before getting married. I'm not even sure if I'd still be with my girlfriend if she hadn't gotten pregnant. I'd rather see if we can make it work than not try, but I'm not keen on jumping into marriage just because there'd be a kid in the picture. I think she's a great person, but I wouldn't say I feel like I'm in love with her. The girlfriend started off indifferent, but is now trying to get me to get married as well. I don't think it's so much she wants to be married to me as much as her parents have convinced her she'll be an embarrassment to have a kid out of wedlock. In a twist, last week, her father offered to buy the ring, pay for the wedding, and give us $100,000 to get married before the kid is born. Not to be nice, but save himself from what he feels is an embarrassment. The whole thing just feels slimy to me. We both have good jobs, and while the money would be nice, we don't really need it. I make enough in my job to provide for the kid, as does she. Am I the jerk for not just sucking it up and marrying her, even if I'm not really in love with her? I've been in this exact same position a couple months into our relationship. Told my parents that we would rather be happy, good parents than married parents, and maybe someday we could be both. We reiterated that we wanted to marry for ourselves and not for our circumstances. We were engaged on my son's first birthday. We have now been happily married for 21 years. As long as you're there for your kid, there's nothing wrong with not getting married until, if, and when you want to. Not the jerk. You should never get married to someone you're not sure about, even if there is a baby in the picture. Also, you need to be there for your kid. I don't mean married or even dating the mom. The kid didn't ask to be born and deserves to have a father. My husband was in this exact situation with his ex and opted to not marry her. If her father is truly a man of God, he should not be basically bribing someone to desecrate the sanctity of marriage. You can still be a great father without getting into a marriage you don't 100% want. You're the jerk. Stop having kids with people you're not married to. When you look at prison statistics, kids growing up in fatherless homes will always be at an extreme disadvantage and are 8 times more likely to end up in prison. I grew up with a great mom and a dad who are married and still are. Guess what? I'm extremely successful and have a great life. My friends who grew up this way, they also are very successful now. All the friends I had who grew up without a dad, none of them are doing well in life now. I hope one day we can evolve to remember how important marriage and family structure is. But at our current rate, I don't think it will ever happen. My sister's daughter ruined my daughter's birthday. My daughter's 5th birthday was 2 days ago. It was hectic to say the least, but I wanted to make her happy. My husband and I informed the rest of the family that she would be having a birthday party because she did not have one the previous year. She asked if some of her friends could come over, and I said yes. She had planned her entire birthday, but her father and I needed to get the supplies. It would be too small inside my house, so we did it in the backyard. My mother and aunts came over for her birthday, and my husband left to go pick up his mother, who had traveled from Guatemala to see her grandkid. My husband's sisters took our daughter out shopping. My sister arrived with her kids. I don't want to sound like a mean aunt, but her kids are bad, disrespectful, and unconcerned about others. She stands by and lets them get away with everything. As everyone arrived with bags of gifts and treats, I assisted my daughter in putting on her dress and heels. We wanted to do something special for her, so my mother laid out a red carpet in front of her door so we could photograph her. The party was going well. Everyone was eating, and I got to meet some of the family members on my father's side. The kids were dancing with the mascot while the adults ate and drank. The family was filming a happy moment when the kids became fussy and were ready to eat the cake. My daughter sat in her high princess chair and my sister's daughter stood on a chair next to her, so I asked everyone to turn off the lights and take out their phones. We lit the candles and sang happy birthday. However, just as my daughter was about to blow out her candle, my niece blew it out. My daughter pushed and hit her cousin, causing her to cry and fall off the chair. Both of the girls were crying. My sister yelled at me for being immature and saying that my daughter was out of control. I told her that it was my daughter's birthday, not hers. I may come across as harsh, but I believe she deserved it because I don't understand why some parents think it's amusing for their kid to ruin another person's birthday. My mother got everyone to stop arguing because she hated seeing her family fight. I lit my daughter's candle again and made sure to stand by her side so my niece wouldn't do it again. The cake was enjoyed by the kids after the commotion. I didn't think my kid was right for what she did, and at the end I did discipline her by taking away her iPad and not letting her play with her toys. She's never done that before, so I don't know why she did it. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your niece is a brat, and your sister enables her behavior. It's only going to get worse from here. Am I the jerk for refusing to give sister-in-law's daughter my cotton candy? I'm female 35. My boyfriend, Francis, is 43, and we're on shaky ground right now because I walked out on our date in front of sister-in-law. Part of it is that he's in the habit of inviting people on our dates without even asking me first. Because of this, I briefly asked for a break last summer. I've told him many times that I don't feel heard and that this makes me feel like my needs don't matter. For background, we're both very close to our families. I'm very understanding about his love for them. What I don't like is that many times his idea of making them happy is in conflict with my well-being. For example, we could plan a pizza and a movie outing and he gets a call from his brother and he tells them exactly where we're going so that brother-in-law, who's 30, can show up. Or having my other brother-in-law, who's 36, pop in while we were having a very romantic date at my favorite sushi restaurant. It's not that I'm against seeing his family, but sometimes I feel misled. His brothers almost always end up not paying, so he pays for brother-in-law, but then I have to cover for him. His sister, who's 41, is an entirely different story. She's always sour and angry looking and very petty. She's very quick to do Facebook Lives to instigate conflict, even with her own family. Her theme nowadays is her ex, who broke up with her for how she was mistreating him, demanded that he return to her house or else said cryptic insults about his family on social media. So he met someone later on and got married, and she has a chip on her shoulder. I intentionally stay away from her and he knows it. I don't have many hobbies, and I'm not really into going out because I'm an introvert most of the time. I've tried to talk to him about how his constant disruptions of our plans really upsets me and causes emotional distress. I'm happy going to the movies by myself, but he doesn't understand that I'm choosing to share my experience with him. Because of my job, very mentally demanding, I love spending my free time doing goofy stuff, like the arcade or the local fairs. I love having the opportunity to watch people's talents. So we went to the local state fair. I was having a blast until all of a sudden, he said that sister-in-law can't find us. What? So sister-in-law showed up with her 3 kids, angry-faced as ever, and hardly returned my greeting. Not only this, but he announced that I needed to buy him his food because he was short on money. I didn't mind, so I got him a burger. Then he says sister-in-law's kids are hungry, but she's short on cash. I'm starting to get upset because how is this possible? Who brings their kids to a place full of food and toys knowing that they won't buy anything? I ended up buying the kids, who are 5, 12, and 8, 2 slices of pizza each and a soda because at the end of the day, it's not their fault that their mom acts this way. I had Frances hand sister-in-law some pizza because I was uncomfortable making her the only person not eating. But her "thank you" sounded like an aggression because she said, "Thank you, Frances," with a cutting tone, knowing darn well that I had purchased it. I don't like their relationship because it's like he gets things for her and his family no matter what. This situation made me angry. I love buying state fair trinkets, but I couldn't do it in peace knowing the kids kept eyeing me. Francis came to show me some inflatable toys, but honestly, I was aggravated because it sounded like he was coercing me to purchase stuff for his nieces and nephew. So I tried to separate from the group. I bought 3 pieces of cotton candy, my main reason that I attend fairs, that I ate immediately. Then I bought another 4 for the road that I was putting inside my backpack when my niece, who's 12, Mandy, had a massive tantrum. She said she wanted cotton candy and started walking very fast towards me. I was mortified. I started walking in the opposite direction, trying to still be polite because I wasn't trying to reject her or anything. This got really awkward because it went from screaming to demanding. So Francis didn't say anything. He didn't ask his niece to calm down. Instead, he just said, "Oh, just give her the cotton candy. You're causing the situation." I tried to clarify that I wasn't waving anything in front of her. I wasn't aware that she was watching me. He said it was just cotton candy and to let her have it. I quickly closed my backpack and let him know that sister-in-law would be driving him back to his place as I was leaving. I did leave. This ruined my whole afternoon. He called me out for being selfish and for leaving him to ride with sister-in-law. I'm very confused about this. It's not like I let the kids go hungry at the fair. A part of me is mad that they're focusing on that one thing I didn't agree to give up. I'm very okay financially. I could have bought the kids some cotton candy, but it wouldn't have felt genuine because, 1, I put it away to avoid having the kids see it as I had no intention of buying more. And 2, I felt like I was put on the spot. I was never told that sister-in-law was showing up despite asking him repeatedly not to bring anyone because it was a me outing and to tell me the truth in case he invited someone. He's been texting me so much about this that I already suggested we break up for good, which seems to have really offended him. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but your boyfriend is, and his family sucks. Why are you with this guy? Your boyfriend treats you like an ATM for his family. The sooner you realize this, the sooner you can move on and find a guy who isn't a deadbeat. Not the jerk. Drop everything and help you out? Sure, I got you. I want to start this post by saying, yes, I know I should have been fired for this, and I do not recommend doing this in any service industry job. This happened several years ago while I was working as a waitress at a chain restaurant. There was this insane manager whom I had to work for on several occasions. She was young and thought that she knew everything, was quite trashy, and was hooking up with one of the higher-ups who was married, whose wife also worked at the same restaurant, but that's a different story. This manager, let's call her Mindy, was on my case about everything. I was one of the few shift lead servers who knew what they were doing, knew how to make the restaurant money, and had many customers write great reviews and say wonderful things about me. I knew how to do my job, and I knew how to do it well. Mindy always singled me out for things when they weren't even my fault. I would always just take it because it wasn't worth my energy fighting about it. She was the only person in the whole restaurant that I did not get along with. I had a great rapport with the bartenders, servers, cooks, back-of-house staff, and other managers. One day I came in to start my shift, but was quickly pulled into the manager's office by a different manager. He wanted to bring it to my attention that Mindy had stated on my past shift that I was on my phone and not working hard. This was not true. I never carried my phone on me because it was a distraction. I didn't have room in my apron, my jeans did not have pockets, and honestly, I didn't want to have it on me. I mentioned this to the manager, and he gave me the benefit of the doubt, but said he was going to keep an eye on me, as cell phone use had been becoming a major problem with several of the servers and bartenders in the past few months. One shift a few days after that was busy. I had a full section and was set with a party of 12 who all ordered beverages from the bar with water. I grab a tray, fill up the water, and hand the glassware to the server bar in the kitchen area. Once all the drinks were on the tray, I slowly started to lift it to get it situated, and it was heavy. Mindy decided that this was the best time to yell at me and tell me she needed me to run the food that was up at the expo line, where she was standing and expediting the food. I took a second to look over at 2 other servers who were leaning against the wall, much closer to her, on their phones. I said, "I'm a little busy. Can someone else help?" She snapped back at me and said, "I told you to do it, so you need to do it now." At that moment, I honestly didn't even care anymore. So I looked her dead in the eyes, smiled, and said, "Okay," and literally dropped the tray of drinks I was holding on the ground, walked over the broken glass, crushing the cups under my feet, grabbed the plates of food, and asked her where they were going while keeping the smile on. The look of horror on her face, the phone-dwelling servers' faces, and the cooks' faces were quite priceless. Once I delivered the food, I went to my party of 12 and apologized to them and told them I dropped the tray of their drinks and I'd be right back with a new one, still with that smile on my face. Once my shift was over, Mindy pulled me into the office and explained that what I did was not okay and she was going to write me up for it, so I had to sign a document stating I understood why I was being written up and I refused to sign it before speaking with other management. There was much more discussed in this conversation, but I can narrow it all down. She said I would be fired if I didn't sign the write-up document at that exact moment. I still refused and said I would speak with the GM about it tomorrow morning on my next shift. The next morning, I explained to the GM what had happened and stated that I was working while others were on their phones, but Mindy singled me out. I also asked him to check the cameras to see the incident take place And might I say, it was satisfying to physically see myself drop everything. After lots of discussion, the GM said there's no problem here, ripped up the write-up, and told me to continue being the hard worker I am, and I never had to work with Mindy again. My Karen daughter is having another baby that she can't afford. My daughter and her husband have recently announced their fourth baby in a small little family gathering I hosted. I know I should be excited and congratulatory, but I'm really not. I just felt exhausted the moment that she announced this. Context. My daughter and her husband aren't really well off financially, so they regularly drop off the kids with me since they can't afford daycare. Of course, I don't mind watching them, but the problem is that they'll pick them up quite late, later than the agreed time. So like I say 9, but then they come at 1. Sometimes it feels like my grandkids spend more time with me than with them. They also rely on me for money as well, but I'm not sure if the money I send them is even being used on my grandkids, as I've seen them buy new stuff for themselves after I give them money for something related to the kids. There's a lot more that I can rant about, but it just feels like it's just gonna be another kid for me to take care of, and I just can't force myself to be excited anymore. I honestly think that they should have stopped at 1. Well, my daughter noticed my lack of a noticeable reaction and asked me if I'm happy to be a grandma again. And I honestly blurted out, "Again? Really?" I didn't mean to, but she didn't take that well and said that I was a horrible person for not being excited for her and for getting a new grandchild, and the whole room just became tense after that. Me and my daughter haven't talked much since, but she still drops off the grandkids. Apparently, she's waiting for an apology from me. And while I'm hesitant, I don't want to split apart the family. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She won't speak to you, but still uses you for childcare? Nope. You need to set some boundaries and fast. She doesn't pick the kids up on time. She finds a different babysitter next time she needs one. Yes, you're so horrible that I won't speak to you, but you're good enough to watch my kids. It sounds as though OP needs firmer boundaries, which include eliminating or at least drastically reducing the free childcare. Not the jerk. Quit babysitting and pull all financial support. If she will not speak to you, she doesn't get to use you as free childcare. Not the jerk, but it's time to play hardball. No offense, OP, but why wouldn't they use you when you offer free childcare and apparently give them an allowance? You need to teach them personal responsibility. Lack of funds? Then they need to get better jobs or take a second one. You are not their ATM. They want to offload the kids, then they need to pay for a babysitter or find a childcare facility. It's time to practice tough love, or your daughter is never going to learn. You're the jerk. You have no right to decide whether or not she should be having any more kids. If you want to be some sort of monster and not help your own daughter with her finances and childcare, that's on you. But as a grandmother, your only role is to support her in any way you can and not be judging her on how many kids she has. Ever since I had my first baby, I've been judged non-stop by people I thought cared about me. As a result, I've gone no contact with most of them. I have 7 kids now, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I love being a mom, and your opinion of me could not possibly mean less to me. If I could find a man who was worth a darn, then I'd probably settle down and let him play the father figure to my kids. But until I find one who's not a complete loser, I'm fine on my own. Fortunately, I qualify for plenty of benefits as a single mother, so I don't have to work anymore. I hope your daughter finds out what benefits she's entitled to, so that she won't have to ask you for help in the future since you're such a judgmental jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter? Please let us know. I think that last commenter's the biggest jerk of them all. How did people get so messed up? Brother ruined my wedding by proposing, so I ruined his proposal. I, 35 male, have a young brother, Todd, 29 male, who had a complicated birth and had to stay a month in the ICU. And because of that, my parents have always doted on him and almost denied him nothing, even if it was to the detriment of my sister, Abby, 32 female, and I. My brother drinks in on the attention and has on more than one occasion made himself the center of attention at either my or my sister's or a cousin's special event. Because of this, Abby and I have a strained relationship with Todd and our parents. Unfortunately, Todd met and fell in love with Lucy, who's 24, who announced her own pregnancy at the baby shower my mom held for Abby. When I proposed to my wife, Michelle, 30 female, I just wanted to elope, but she really wanted her family to be there, so I invited my family out of obligation. While out, my best man Jim, 35 male, noticed a receipt from a jewelry store slipped out of Todd's pocket. Jim confronted Todd about this, which led to an argument. Jim told me everything, and I told Todd that he was no longer going to be a groomsman because I knew he was going to propose at my wedding. Todd cried to our parents, and which led to a blowout. In my parents' eyes, since Todd never admitted that he was going to propose to Lucy at my wedding, I was unfairly judging him. I refused and brought up Todd's past behavior. My parents couldn't refute this and got Todd to agree to not try anything at my wedding. This wasn't enough to convince me to let him be a groomsman, but I warned him that if, as a guest, he'd try anything, I would make him regret it. Fast forward to the wedding, and surprise, surprise, Todd walked over to Lucy and proposed to her during Michelle's father-daughter dance and did it in a way so that everyone would notice. Cue my revenge. Jim and I had hired a woman to pretend to be Todd's side piece who cornered Todd and Lucy and claimed that she was pregnant with his baby. Todd denied this, but when she called his phone, I gave her his number and messed with Todd's phone to incriminate him. It didn't look good. Lucy threw the ring back at Todd and left in tears. When Todd saw the smile on my face, he knew that it was me, and I didn't respond to a single call or text from him or my parents until after the honeymoon. Lucy has thrown Todd's stuff out and has been denying access to their kid. Todd is furious and demanding that I clear his name. I sent him a text saying that I had no idea what he was talking about, as well as a screenshot of a bill for the wedding, and gave a vague message demanding reimbursement for half of the wedding costs. Michelle knew the whole time what I was planning and gave me the green light after Todd ruined her moment with her dad. So I felt pretty good, but now even Abby thinks that I went too far. Well, what do you think? Did OP go too far with his revenge or not? Please let us know.
Sounds like Todd messed around and found out.
Am I the jerk for telling a teacher she's being unreasonable? My son, Ollie, is a senior and on ASB. They had organized a homecoming pep rally scheduled for this Friday. They've been prepping for a long time. There's a dance routine and a teacher versus student basketball game. Last week, Ollie tripped over a chair during the night and tore a ligament in his ankle. Obviously, he can't participate in the rally. They can't really continue with the program as planned with my son out. They really tried. The teacher in charge asked other seniors if they wanted to take my son's spot, but they declined because they didn't want to look stupid doing a dance routine with 4 days prepped. That's when my 11-year-old son, Brian, said he wished he could take his brother's place. I thought about that and realized it was actually a good idea. He does a lot of gymnastics and picks up on choreography quickly. I had a talk with Ollie, who wasn't sure. I spoke to the teacher, who asked my son to do some of the choreography, and he impressed her. She then said that she would talk to the other students about Brian taking the spot of Ollie. The students thought the idea would be funny, and everyone agreed to it. My son would actually be paired with Ollie's girlfriend. The teacher told me that the rally is scheduled towards the end of the day on Friday, so Brian would have to miss 3 classes, 2 for prep, 1 for the rally. I spoke to 2, and they were fine with it. Whatever work they do on Friday can be made up on the Monday. The third teacher, language arts, said she wasn't okay with his skipping class to go to a rally at the high school. That's not a valid excuse to miss class, so she won't let him make up a test that she was going to schedule. He would have to get a 0. I told her that it's not like he's skipping school to go to the park. If 2 teachers in the high school is okay, then why can't she be? She said she doesn't play favorites. I told her it's not playing favorites, it's being reasonable. Would she just have me lie? She said of course not, but that's her rules. I said we'll leave it at that. I decided it wasn't worth this much drama, and my son getting a 0 on a test in the 6th grade wasn't going to ruin his life. I could be a jerk dad and go over her head, but I won't. She did email me today and asked if I decided if my son was going to skip class to go to the high school rally. I replied, he's skipping class because he has a doctor's appointment, so he'll make the test up per her rules. What's she going to do? Leave class to see if he's dancing in the rally? Can we please get a few things straight? I'm speaking as a recently retired teacher. 1. The school administrators, not teachers, determine what's an excused absence and what isn't. Schools have policies in place. 2. When the administration decides, per school policies, that an absence is excused, teachers must allow students to make up work. 3. It's rare to have every student in class show up on a test day. There's almost always at least one kid out due to illness or a school choir concert or something. Teachers routinely create alternate tests when they create the original test. 4. Yes, the teacher has to proctor the kids who missed the test. I spent many lunchtimes and after school hours doing this. It's part of the job. It's also why it ticks me off when people say teachers have short hours. I was there 10 hours a day, not counting the many evenings at home grading and calling parents. 5. I always hated it when parents pulled their kids from classes for extraneous reasons, but it was not my call to make. It isn't Brian's teacher's call either. OP, you should have gone to the principal first, not the teachers. I'm just about positive the principal would have given it a green light. Not the jerk, except for the lying part. I'm so confused at the "you're the jerk" comments. My mother was the kind of parent who would make me go to school no matter what, and more than 10 years later, I still get annoyed thinking about it. One test in 6th grade is really not a big deal. Makes me wonder how old these commenters are. You're the jerk. The teacher had a test assigned for that day, hence why the other 2 teachers are allowing it has no bearing on whether the 3rd teacher was unreasonable. Making up classwork and homework is nowhere near as intensive as trying to schedule a makeup test day and time. All you did was teach your kid that it's okay to lie to get what you want and make other people's lives more difficult for the sake of your own personal gain. You're the jerk. His language arts teacher said that it's not a valid excuse to miss class and she won't let him make up the test. She's right. You had a talk with Ollie who wasn't sure, but you decided to push it anyway and you're now lying so Brian can skip class. I'm getting a sense of favoritism here. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the teacher? Please let us know. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.